So if you could start off telling us your name and title.
My name is Colonel Jesse T. Curry. I'm the commander of the Rock Island District, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
And tell us a little bit about the mooring cell. What does it do, and what is its importance?
Yeah, so the Lock 14 mooring cell is what we call a navigational aid. So essentially what it is building a small artificial cell out in the middle of the water, out here to my left, that provides those navigating up and down the river, whether it's a huge tow or a smaller recreational boat, a place to tie up to save fuel, to remain safe while they're waiting to lock through a Lock 14 here. This is one of several mooring cells that we're building up and down the Mississippi River, but this one here is the first, and we're proud to get it started.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about why it's needed? Why do we need a mooring cell?
Well, mooring cells certainly make it safer for all those that are operating on the river to be able to navigate. Many of the big tows, if the mooring cell is not here, if they have to wait out in the channel, they're either burning fuel to hold their position or they have to nose into the bank. Neither of those things are ideal, so what the mooring cell provides is a place for them to tie up. One of the things we're seeing up and down the river, which is really important to note, is the increased traffic, the increased movement of product and commerce as crops come out of the fields, petroleum products move up and down the river, or manufacturing products use this most fuel efficient, economical, environmentally friendly way to move product. As they use it, we are seeing that traffic increase in a good way. So as that increases, it creates additional congestion and makes these types of structures more and more important.
Definitely, and this allows those boats to not have to run their engines, and so it also has an environmental
Absolutely
benefit.
It has the environmental component, is they're not burning fuel while they're not moving up and down the river. It also saves them money, and ultimately in the supply chain, making that process as efficient as it can be filters its way back to grocery stores, to farmers, to our entire economy. That those profits, those ability to do it more efficiently, does impact the entire economy of our nation.
Definitely. And how much does this cost, and who's funding it?
Yeah, so this particular project, I'll have to get back to you on the exact total for this particular project, but this is funded from Congress, by the federal government. The funding for these initial projects was provided through the bipartisan-infrastructure law, which was enacted last year, and that also, significant to this entire program, gave us what's called a construction new start. So before we had that, we could design, but we could not actually start construction. So bipartisan infrastructure law provided the initial funding and the new start, so we could start seeing these projects come out of the ground, or in this case, out of the river.
Yeah, and will there be one by Rock Island, the Rock Island Lock Dam?
There's a plan for 8 mooring cells up and down the river. This is the closest one to the Quad Cities, but there's a few to the north and a few to the south, but this will be the closest one to the Quad Cities.
Gotcha. Awesome. Do you think that there's one needed by the Rock Island?
I think as we look at the congestion and the dynamics of the river in the different locations, everywhere could benefit from mooring cells. There is a reality is that there are places where they are more needed than others. Certainly this location is one that we have a history of challenges for navigation. So as it's been prioritized and initially built into the program, this is really the first one prioritized to deliver.
Gotcha. So where do boats stop now?
So right now, boats, they move out, they either stay out in the middle of the channel and burn fuel to hold their position, whether they're moving upbound or downbound on the river, or as was mentioned, there's areas along the river where they'll nose into the bank. And ultimately, again, I'm not a boat captain, but you certainly would think that they would much prefer to have a mooring cell to tie up to in compared to those two options. So both on the other side of the lock and on this side of the lock, as boats make their way through and sometimes wait in a queue to do that, these structures become really important.
Gotcha.